They're a little weak on the wing position, which, I think Thibault will help. I think, Zaire Williams will help. But, like they could use some more juice on the wing. And maybe they get Kuminga done. Maybe they don't. Again, all I can tell you is Rob Pelinka keeps calling about Jonathan Kuminga.
Have the Lakers actually figured it out this time? When you take a step back and look at everything they've put together this summer, their game plan becomes pretty easy to read. The pieces they've built up around Luka Doncic.
Spencer Jones on him, here's the double. Doncic on the drive, step back, puts it up, puts it in with 5/10 of a second remaining.
The assignment itself isn't complicated. Protect the rim, run the floor, and give Luka a dependable screen and roll option. DeAndre Ayton never consistently delivered all three. Now the Lakers are betting Kessler can. Los Angeles gave him 4 years and $130 million, and the skeptics aren't completely wrong to question it. Every center earning more annually than Kessler has been an all-star. Kessler hasn't reached that level yet, so the Lakers are clearly investing not only in the player he has been, but also in the player they believe he can become. There's a legitimate argument for the gamble, though. Kessler is 7'2", with a 7'4" wingspan, and at just 25 years old, he already has the physical tools of a modern defensive anchor. Before an injury restricted him to only 5 appearances last season, he averaged 11 points, 12 rebounds, and 2.4 blocks, while shooting 66% from the field. Offensively, his role should be one of the simplest on the roster. Playing alongside Luka means setting solid screens, rolling aggressively, and finishing whatever passes come his way. Kessler doesn't need post touches or plays drawn up for him. His job is to make himself useful within the system, and athletic rim-running centers tend to fit beside Luka about as naturally as any big man archetype in basketball. Defensively, though, that's where Kessler becomes especially valuable. He's already one of the league's strongest rim protectors. His length, timing, and ability to recognize when to challenge a shot combine to make the paint extremely difficult to attack. He isn't the fastest center when moving laterally, but his size allows him to contest with either hand and recover from mistakes that would leave smaller bigs helpless. Los Angeles hasn't had that kind of interior presence since Anthony Davis departed. But if this entire experiment is going to succeed, Kessler needs to get closer to the level another former Jazz center once provided the Lakers. Rudy Gobert spent years serving as the foundation of some of the league's best defenses while collecting multiple Defensive Player of the Year awards, and that's essentially the standard the Lakers are hoping Kessler can approach. For Los Angeles, that means controlling the paint without constantly getting caught in foul trouble, ending defensive possessions by securing rebounds instead of giving opponents second chances, and remaining playable late in games when teams go small and force him to defend farther from the basket. JJ Redick has a difficult puzzle to solve here. He needs to discover lineups that allow Kessler's rim protection to remain valuable without exposing the Lakers too much around the perimeter during closing minutes. Finding that balance could be one of the toughest coaching challenges in the league this season. So the question really comes down to this. Can Kessler develop into a top 5 defender? And can his presence help push the Lakers into the league's top 10 defenses? Because in a Western Conference featuring Oklahoma City, San Antonio, and Denver, that could ultimately determine everything. That leaves Luka, Reeves, and Kessler occupying 3 of the 5 starting positions. Those spots are basically settled. Rob Pelinka has also surrounded them with depth that looks pretty good on paper. Grimes, Mamu, Stone, Tyeel, Zia Williams, and Kevin Looney are all capable of handling rotation minutes when healthy. Grimes is the most likely candidate to enter the starting lineup, which immediately exposes the biggest remaining weakness, power forward. With LeBron now in Philadelphia and Rui playing across town with the Clippers, Los Angeles still needs a legitimate starting 4, and right now they don't really have one. There are internal options though. Jake LaRivia, Matisse Thybulle, Zia Williams, Jared Vanderbilt, and Mamu could all receive opportunities. And based on the way Redick has constructed this roster, the emphasis appears to be on perimeter defense rather than simply adding size. If that's the direction they're leaning, Williams has a reasonable case. He has enough length to deal with bigger wings, and because he's still young, there's room for his game to develop. Matisse Thybulle may make even more sense defensively. He earned second-team all-defense honors twice in Philadelphia, and he brings exactly the kind of point-of-attack defense the Lakers lost when Marcus Smart departed. Vanderbilt gives them additional length and switchability, but his offensive limitations are difficult to ignore. Putting him beside Luka and Reeves could allow opponents to sag off and create the kind of help defense problems that make the offense more difficult. LaRivia provides more as a connective piece who can keep the ball moving, but he hasn't been consistent enough to simply hand him the starting job before the season even begins. Then there's Mamu. His ability to stretch the floor and make quick decisions could make him a very natural offensive fit next to Luka, but starting him creates another set of problems. The Lakers would lose a true wing defender from the first unit while also removing one of their stronger front court options from the bench. And that's the problem with every internal solution. They simply shift the weakness somewhere else. That may be why Los Angeles eventually has to search outside the organization. The name that continues to surface is Jonathan Kuminga. He's an unrestricted free agent who has also attracted interest from Cleveland and Minnesota. On paper, his skill set lines up with several things the Lakers need, but the concerns are impossible to ignore. Kuminga likes having the ball in his hands. He hasn't developed into a dependable shooter, and reports indicate that he previously turned down a 2-year, $20 million proposal from the Lakers. At this stage, it's difficult to imagine the two sides suddenly finding common ground. Then there's the possibility of bringing in PJ Washington and reuniting him with Luka, recreating the frontcourt combination that helped make Dallas work so well. There have been reports suggesting Los Angeles' interest in Washington may have been exaggerated, although that's exactly the kind of message teams tend to send while negotiations are happening. If the Lakers somehow manage to make that deal happen, it would be one of the cleanest fits available. But right now, that outcome doesn't look particularly likely either. And that's what makes this Lakers offseason so interesting. They've addressed almost every major issue on the roster, yet one position remains unresolved. Now the entire construction of the team is being heavily influenced by the one spot they haven't been able to fill. The answer could arrive through a minimum contract sometime in September. It could be a younger player suddenly taking a major step during training camp, or maybe the solution doesn't appear until the trade deadline in February. Whatever happens, this Lakers roster is unquestionably much closer to championship caliber than it was a year ago, but it's still incomplete. Luka, Reeves, and Kessler give Los Angeles 3 foundational pieces that can genuinely change the team's ceiling. If all 3 perform at an all-star level, making a deep playoff run isn't some unrealistic fantasy. It becomes a legitimate possibility. The blueprint is there, and for the first time in quite a while, the Lakers appear to have a clear idea of what they're trying to build. It's also important to remember how the Mavericks actually reached that level. They weren't a perfectly finished team when October arrived. There were weaknesses, there were holes, but Dallas addressed those problems at the trade deadline and eventually pushed past Oklahoma City before making its run to the finals. Los Angeles could be heading down a remarkably similar path. They have the blueprint, they have Luka, they have the talent. Now they need that final piece, and maybe a little help from the timing of everything. So how far do you think this Lakers team can actually go? Drop your prediction in the comments. And as always, hit the like button and subscribe for more NBA breakdowns like this one.
It genuinely resembles that 2024 Mavericks squad that made the run to the finals. Walker Kessler brings him a legitimate lob-catching threat and someone who can anchor the paint defensively. Then you've got Quentin Grimes, Colin Sexton, Yusuf Nurkic, Matisse Thybulle, and Zion Williamson rounding things out. All the switchable, athletic bodies you need surrounding a player who's going to be dominating the ball for roughly 80 possessions a night. It's essentially the same blueprint: spacing, defense, and constant screening for Doncic. But here's the catch. This Lakers roster is still missing one crucial ingredient that made that Mavs team click, and it's exactly the type of gap that can silently determine the outcome of a playoff series. So how does this current group actually measure up against those 2024 Mavericks? And more importantly, what's the piece they still haven't figured out? Because talent clearly won't be the issue here. The real question is whether all that talent actually converts into wins. The 2023-24 Mavericks stand as the best blueprint we've seen for building correctly around Luka Doncic. Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively II gave him 2 bigs capable of running the floor rim to rim and finishing above everyone. Derek Jones Jr. and PJ Washington absorbed the toughest perimeter matchups, so Luka didn't have to do it. Josh Green and Dante Exum provided solid bench minutes. Tim Hardaway Jr. brought the shooting, and Kyrie Irving gave them a second bucket getter for whenever the offense went cold. Every single one of those pieces served a purpose, either making things easier for Luka or covering whatever he couldn't do himself. That's exactly what made the Nico Harrison trade so difficult to swallow. Dallas spent years assembling that formula, finally nailed it, and then dealt away the very centerpiece the whole roster was built around. By the time Luka arrived in Los Angeles, the Lakers simply didn't have the personnel or the framework in place to seriously compete. So, when Luka and his representatives sat down with the Lakers to hammer out his extension, The Athletic reported that the front office made him a promise. They'd construct the roster mirroring that 2024 Mavericks team. That meant genuine center production, lob-catching bigs who could replicate what Gafford and Lively brought, perimeter defenders who wouldn't clog his driving lanes, and a secondary playmaker to share the offensive burden. Simple in theory, maximize everything that makes Luka one of the most lethal offensive weapons, while masking whatever he struggles with. Getting there, though, meant some tough goodbyes that Lakers fans are still wrapping their heads around. LeBron James, gone. Rui Hachimura, gone. Marcus Smart, gone. That's an enormous amount of franchise history walking out the door in a single offseason. Painful, no doubt, but it's also exactly what freed up Rob Pelinka to fully execute this Dallas 2.0 mission. This is officially Luka's team now, and just like it was in Dallas, everything revolves around him. Let's start at the 5. In Dallas, Luka had 2 mobile bigs who could run, finish lobs, and protect the basket. In LA, that responsibility now falls on Walker Kessler. His ceiling might actually exceed what either Lively or Gafford offered, but ceiling isn't really the point here, fit is. What Kessler gives Luka is a big who sets real screens, rolls with force, and converts above the rim. When you've got arguably the best pick-and-roll operator alive running your offense, having a partner who can actually finish those reads is worth far more than people tend to acknowledge. The bigger swing, though, happens in the backcourt. Kyrie Irving gave Dallas something almost no team has access to, a second ball handler who could create his own offense and make defenses pay whenever they collapsed on Luka. Whenever the offense stalled late in games, Dallas always had a backup plan. The Lakers are wagering that Austin Reeves can fill that exact role. That 4-year, $180 million extension is a massive commitment, but it comes after a season where Reeves averaged 23.3 points and 5.5 assists while shooting 49% from the field and 36% from 3 on 10.3 attempts a night. Is he Kyrie Irving? Not even close. Nobody in that building would claim otherwise. But Reeves does bring a legitimate handle. He's slippery when attacking the rim, and he's capable of taking control of the offense whenever Luka sits. If he keeps developing at this pace, Los Angeles could have its own version of the two-guard setup that helped Dallas reach the finals. The same idea applies to the perimeter defensive wings. Dallas built that roster around protecting Luka and Kyrie, allowing P.J. Washington and Derrick Jones Jr. to take on the difficult defensive assignments, while their stars preserved energy for offense. The Lakers are attempting something similar with Grimes, Thibault, Zaya Williams, and rookie Cameron Carr. The biggest difference comes with the scoring off the bench. Dallas had Tim Hardaway Jr. providing around 14 points per game as a high-volume catch-and-shoot option. Los Angeles instead chose Colin Sexton, a downhill scorer who can manufacture his own opportunities instead of depending on somebody else to create them. Sexton brings a slightly different version of the same concept. On nights when the starters can't find their rhythm, he can generate offense himself. He's also someone the Lakers could plug into the starting lineup if necessary without completely disrupting the rotation. Put everything together and it's pretty clear what Los Angeles has attempted to build, a modern recreation of the 2024 Mavericks. Nearly 4 of the 5 starting roles are accounted for, but Dallas had P.J. Washington at forward power, and his importance went beyond what the numbers showed. He could switch defensively, rebound, handle bigger players and wings, and hit an open corner 3 without needing a play designed specifically for him. That's the missing ingredient in Los Angeles. They need a large, versatile forward who can handle a little bit of everything and make the entire lineup function more naturally. Mamu gets somewhat close to that description, but defensively he isn't on P.J. Washington's level. Finding that player could be the difference between becoming a legitimate championship threat and once again getting bounced in the second round. And this is where things get much more complicated. There's a huge difference between copying a successful blueprint and actually making that blueprint work. Having similar player types on a roster looks great on paper, but none of it matters if those players can't stay healthy or fail to perform at the level their contracts demand. That brings us back to Luka. The entire Lakers equation revolves around him. That part isn't really up for debate. His production over the past several seasons has made his talent almost impossible to question. Last year, he put up nearly 34 points, 8.3 assists, and 7.7 rebounds per game, while shooting 48% overall and 37% from 3 on 10.3 attempts a night. And somehow, he's still just 27 years old. For most players, 27 is right around the beginning of their prime years. Luka's game is built more around footwork, timing, angles, and controlling pace than pure athletic explosiveness, so there isn't much reason to expect a major decline anytime soon. Players who rely heavily on skill rather than speed often age extremely well. But there's one issue that matters more than all of that: availability. That's ultimately what hurt Los Angeles last season. Oklahoma City swept the Lakers in the second round, and Luka's health played a major role in how that series unfolded.
If he had been fully healthy and available throughout that matchup, maybe Los Angeles steals a game, or even two, and suddenly the entire conversation changes. We'll never know, but that uncertainty is exactly why Luka is the first make-or-break piece of this roster. The Lakers can survive Luka having a bad night. What they can't survive is Luka having a bad April. The second make-or-break player is Austin Reeves. With LeBron no longer there, Reeves becomes the clear number 2 option, no debate. And if you go back and watch that Thunder series, there are legitimate reasons to wonder whether he's prepared for that responsibility. Game 1 was probably Los Angeles' best opportunity to steal a victory in Oklahoma City. A decent performance from Reeves wasn't going to be enough. The Lakers needed him to take over. Instead, he finished 3 for 16 from the field, missed all 5 of his three-point attempts, and scored just 8 points in a 108-90 defeat. That was the point where the series essentially slipped away, and everyone watching could feel it. Now, after signing a 4-year, $180 million extension, the expectations are completely different. That kind of money is reserved for a player you expect to become an all-star level presence. To Reeves' credit, his development has been steady every year. He went from an undrafted rotation player to a legitimate starter, and eventually into a 23-point scorer. At 28, he's entering the stage where that progression should reach its peak. The Lakers need that peak to happen immediately. There will be games when Luka doesn't suit up. There will also be nights when Luka scores 40 and the Lakers still need more. Reeves doesn't have to become Kyrie Irving, but he does have to develop into the type of second option who can explode for 30 points in a playoff game when the opponent's entire defensive strategy is designed around shutting Luka down. But ask Lakers fans about the roster, and plenty will tell you the bigger concern is Walker Kessler. Playing center in Los Angeles comes with an enormous amount of history. The position has been occupied by names ranging from Mikan to Wilt to Kareem to Shaq. That's a heavy legacy for a 25-year-old who has suddenly become the franchise's biggest offseason investment.